Nominations are now open for a one-year position as moderator. Currently held by Guy Payne, who is seeking re-election. Mr. Guy Payne.
Nominate Guy Payne.
I second it. Who said that? Mary. Oh, Mary. Are there any other nominations? I move the nominations.
Second.
All in favor of ceasing nominations, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor of the first motion, of electing Guy Payne, moderator, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Cast one vote.
Before we begin, as sort of tradition, I'd like to take a moment of silence for those who are Saxtons River residents who have passed on, or our neighbors, or former residents. So, Alfred Hardesty Jr., James H. Smith Weston, Thomas.
June is alive and well.
Yeah.
June is alive and well.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Take her off. Talk to her today.
The rumors are
Want to be a trustee?
Exaggerated. Yes, exaggerated, yes.
Who was it then?
June Weston is alive and well. The second one.
This says James.
Not on our list.
It's June. Oh, was it June? It says June. Well, somewhere in the town meeting.
H. Smith Weston.
Somehow I have to transition back to the sad part. Thomas Fields, Margaret Jean Chandler, M. Jackie Hewitt, David Keene Jr., Leroy Bud Simmons, Norman M. Vancor, and David P. Wells. On this side. Okay. I'm going to dispense with the usual guidelines. I'm assuming we've been through this so many times that we don't need to know the guidelines of the meetings, in case anyone would like to have those guidelines read. Okay. We're here now for Article 2. Article 2, to hear the reports of the trustees, treasurer, auditor, fire department, fast squad, tax collector, water pollution control facility. Is there a motion to approve all reports as presented?
Mr. Moderator, I move to approve the reports of the trustees, treasurer, fire department, fast squad, tax collector, water pollution control facility, and the auditors as presented.
Is there a second?
I second that.
It is moved and seconded that we approve the reports of the trustees, treasurer, fire department, fast squad, tax collector, water pollution control facility, and the auditors. Is there a discussion?
Can we get an update on where we are with the wastewater? I know it's at one of the trustees meetings, and I was updated, but I don't know if anybody else is following along.
Yeah, happy to do that. And we've actually got a couple representatives from Tate and Howard, who's the engineering firm that's handling the project. So back we've got Steve Landry and Dexter LaFabre. So to give you gentlemen maybe step up. Is there some any questions? A lot has happened over the past year. When we were here a year ago, we had received bids for the projects. The bids were all considerably over budget, and we were unsure what we were going to do. Since then, we've had a second bond vote to increase our bond authority for borrowing money for the project. We've sent the project out for bid a second time. We got much the same response as far as bid amounts, but we did resolve on a project budget that is workable. We've worked with USDA, who is our funding agency, to secure additional funding for the project, and the exciting part is that we were able to get additional grant funding from them, which helped offset much of the project cost increase that we had seen on the bidding. I've got some handouts that give an update of what the impact is likely to be on the user fees, and you're welcome to grab a copy of those on your way out. And we've selected a contractor. So the contractor for the project is going to be a company called Penta, and they're fairly experienced contractor. They're currently working on one of the upgrade projects in the Bellows Falls facility, and we're under contract now with them, as well as with Taylor and Howard, to provide the engineering services. And the construction is now slated to start on May 7th. Yeah, right. So we'll be having a pre-construction meeting in the coming couple of weeks. Sit down with the contractor, work out the detailed schedule, but it's estimated to be about a one-year construction project. So we should have a new plant up and running this time next year. So a lot of movement on that project this year. Questions?
Just one more, Ben, I'm not harassing anybody.
Yeah.
Could you just update them on how your process for your rating of the sewer charge is going to go? I know you've increased it this year in hope of avoiding sticker shock. And
Yeah.
I've listened to it, folks, but I don't know if you have. So.
Yeah, we've been keeping you all and all of the users apprised of what the estimated user fee was going to be throughout the process, going back to the first bond vote that we had in 2015, so that was 3 years ago. And the estimated fee has ranged in the $700 range, maybe $675, $730, depending on what the financing was looking like, what the cost estimate. Currently, what I've worked up with the best information we've got, I think we're looking at probably $695 as an annual fee. So we had increased last year the billed fee to $575. At that time, we didn't know how much, if any, of the construction was going to take place. It turned out none of the construction take place, so we're delayed a year now, and we've set the user fee for this coming year again at $575. So we feel that will cover us for the interim financing charges that we'll have to incur during the construction period. But this time next year, as we go send out the bills for July of 2019, I would expect the user fee is going to be about $695.
Are there any other questions for Ben
Or Steve or Dexter?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Any other questions on the report? Was this about the wastewater?
Yeah, I just had a question. Were there features or things in the original plan that had to be taken out to save money?
So one thing that we took out in order to meet our bonded level of funding was demolition of the existing structures. That was an $84,000 deduct out of the project. So what that means is that as the project stands right now, we're not going to be able to take down the existing structures. But our intent is to fund the demolition, because that's not a good situation. We need to take those structures down. We've got reserve fund money, and our intent as trustees is to pay for that demolition out of reserve funds, not out of the bonded loan for grant money. Thanks for that question.
That was the only thing you had to leave out?
That was it.
Great.
Let me just...
Oh, okay, I just got to follow up on
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone else has had their chance before we circle back to you.
Are you
I
on
guess that's...
are you on the specific regulations? Oh, not, oh. Wait, I thought you pointed me, go ahead.
Now you're ready. Go ahead.
Are you under specific regulations for the demo down there? Are you under specific regulations for the demo down there, whether to the conditions you have to meet?
Hazardous materials, you have to be inspection. That's part of it.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you mentioned a number of 84,000, and I may have a cheaper alternative for you. I can give you a number to try, maybe try. Just a thought.
Okay.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
There are 4 seats down here, if people want to sit down.
You know, I need
Is there
to...
anything you can say?
No? Okay.
Yeah, I have a few questions. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I got back from work and I don't know if there's another sewer plant meeting. I didn't go to one till about, I don't know, I guess it was a year and a half ago or something in the fall. But I had written down a few things and maybe there's some redundancy here, but I apologize for that. There was a few things that concern me, and they maybe have been addressed, but they haven't been fine. One of the concerns that came up quite a while ago was the fact that you did reduce, try to get the price reduced by eliminating some of the work that had been originally planned for, to say 500,000, I believe it was, because it had gone up to $4 million.
Yeah, we didn't reduce any scope of work, no. Other than the demolition, which we just spoke about.
Because there was discussion about components that had an estimate of 20 years and were being accrued over a period of 30 years. And I believe Joseph brought that up, and his wife, about that being not a very good gift to be handing off to our grandchildren in that meeting that I attended. And the answer from the engineer was to save money would be to repair components if they broke down rather than buy new stuff. And the concern that I had on that sort of thing, to save that, didn't make any sense to me because they usually charge you more to buy components to repair stuff than it is to buy new stuff. So I didn't know by reducing items in the sewer plant if it made any sense. There was also a discussion about labor. That labor costs now are very high. I had a concern about attitude of laborers today. We all have a difficult time with getting anybody to do a halfway decent job for us these days on anything that we do. So I had a concern with that, and I didn't know if anybody had thought about that or discussed those sort of issues. And I also asked a question back during that time, what the difference in cost would be between having our own sewer plant or connecting to the Bells Falls plant, and what the difference in price would be. And the only answer I got from you, Ben, and the engineer was that it'd be a lot less. And I asked, what would that be? What would the cost savings be? And you had no idea. So, and also a concern that I had was one of the trustees disagreed on the deletion of a curtain drain on the project, which was planned into the original design, and wondered if that had been solved as well. So again, I'm sorry I didn't make it to probably another meeting that they had beyond that, but those are concerns that I'm really concerned about. I don't know if it makes more sense to have our own sewer plant or to connect to the Bells Falls plant. And I was also concerned too about sustainability. You're the guy that's been the only one really on the committee something were to happen to you, is there other people that are knowledgeable on this particular project if something were to happen? All legitimate concerns, I think. I don't know if any of them have been addressed, but maybe you can tell me now.
Sure. There was a lot packed into that question.
Yeah, there was a lot of questions.
If we could maybe start unwinding that a little bit.
Take one at a time, Jim.
The bidders that you had, when you had to go out for the bid because we had a stall on it, was another $1 million, right? So you went back with engineering and you reduced that cost. You talked to the bidders again and got somebody down $500,000, but you did that by reducing components, like ridding the curtain drain. You didn't do that.
I think a lot of those questions and discussions from a year ago related to the first round of bidding and some negotiations that took place with the low-cost construction bidder at the time. But we've since went to bid a second time, and we're working with a different contractor. And the only reduction in scope of the project was to take out demolition, which was an $84,000 line item that we plan to cover with capital reserve money that we already have. So that's
So you didn't reduce any items that you felt weren't really necessary to get the price down?
no.
Okay.
Yeah, we raised the SBRs up.
We raised the SBR tanks 4 feet to get out.
To get out of there.
But
That
then
was
change
not a reduction in scope of the project.
When you use a heat pump to a boiler.
That was over there on there.
Between
The heat pump to a boiler. Okay.
And then the bond is for 20 years, not 30.
But to be clear, those changes were made in the design that was sent out for bid. After the bids were received, there wasn't any reduction in scope of the design, just after the bids were received the second time.
Correct. Okay, so the bond is for 20 years. Okay. So there's no concern about components, you know, like anything being paid for in 30 years that would be wearing out by 20.
Well, actually, the new budget for the sewer department will include a line item called short-lived assets. And that's a set aside every year to help cover the cost of repairing and replacing equipment that wears out in less than 20 years. So that there are plans for that, and it is included in the budget that's been used to predict the user fee.
Okay. Because I just had a concern about that.
Yep, that's a good concern.
Accrue something that's going to only last 20 years.
Yep.
Plan on paying it for 30. That's a sure way to fail in business. And you never did, there wasn't, you were able to bid down, so you didn't have to reduce anything. So, okay, you answered that. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you. Sorry if I brought things back in the future, but I haven't had a chance to come to it.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any other questions with regard to the reports? Are you ready for the question? If you know what the question is, but I don't know. The question is on the adoption of the motion to approve the reports of the trustees, treasurer, fire department, fast squad, tax collector, water pollution control, and the auditor. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, ayes do have it, and the motion has been adopted. Article 3. To elect the following officers to wit, 3 trustees, treasurer, tax collector, village clerk, and 3 auditors. One of the things that I did check, you do not need a second on nominations. That will make it a little quicker. There is a vacancy for a 2-year trustee term currently held by its use and is not seeking re-election. Are there nominations? Any nominations?
I nominate Peter Bergstrom.
Any other nominations? Or? Okay, then we may have to move on and fill that some other way. You're not staying. Okay, there's a vacancy then for a 1-year term currently held by Celia Bohannon and is seeking re-election. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Celia Bohannon.
Any other nominations?
I move that nomination. I'm instructed to.
Don't worry. The nominations are closed, and we don't need a second on that, so we'll instruct the clerk to pass one ballot. Cast a ballot for yourself. There is a vacancy for 1-year trustee term currently held by Ben Wallace and is seeking re-election. Are there nominations?
I nominate Ben Wallace.
I move the nomination cease.
Don't need it. Oh, be close. Any other nominations? Nominations are closed, and I'll direct the clerk to pass one ballot for Ben Wallace. Okay. There is a vacancy for a 1-year term for treasurer currently held by Alex Barrett and is seeking re-election. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Alex Barrett.
Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. Cast one ballot for Alex Barrett.
Would Alex please hold his hand up so that he can do this?
Okay, there is a vacancy for a 1-year term for tax collector currently held by Connie Lancaster, who is not seeking re-election. Are there any nominations?
Nominate Peter Golick.
I decline the nomination. Thank you very much.
2 for 2.
I'm going with the Peters.
There are 2 tax collector positions. There's current taxes and delinquent taxes.
Okay.
That's it was in the original one.
It's not in the work.
It's not in the warning. Okay. Any others? Then we'll just have to let that go for the time being. There's a vacancy for a 1-year term for village clerk currently held by Celia Bohannon and is seeking re-election. Okay. Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. Cast one ballot. Proceed. There is a vacancy for a 1-year term for auditor currently held by Peter Bergstrom and is seeking re-election. Are there nominations?
Nominate Peter Bergstrom.
Any others? Nominations are closed. Cast one ballot for Peter Bergstrom. There's a vacancy for a 1-year term for auditor currently held by Tom Bowen and is seeking re-election. Are there nominations?
I nominate Tom Bowen.
Okay, are there nominations? Nominations are closed. Cast one ballot for Tom Bowen. There's a vacancy for a one-year term for auditor currently held by Peter Goldman and is seeking re-election. Are there not nominations?
I nominate Peter Golick.
Are there not nominations? Nominations closed. Next one ballot for Peter Goldman. Congratulations, everybody.
And just a clarification, sometimes in statute there are some conflicts between offices.
A little louder,
I'm not sure. There's some conflicts between offices, and the board might want to just double check to see if there's a conflict between holding a trustee seat and an auditor seat. There's some of them that are in there, you just want to look at it to make sure that it's not covered.
Is related to this?
Whether auditor or treasurer or something, yeah, I mean, you might want to just double check.
Thanks, Ellen. Okay. Next order of business is Article 4, to see if the voters will vote to assess a tax on the grand list of the village for general operating expenses, the indebtedness of the village, and interest for the ensuing year, and if so, by how much?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the village voters approve a general fund budget of $56,250, less cash on hand as of June 30th, 2017, of $25,284.21, with a balance of $30,965.79 to be raised by taxes.
Is there a second?
We had some discussion about that this might not be the correct figure because the reserve wasn't counted in.
Which year is this one? We're in discussion, right?
Actually, what I need to do, something I brought Robert's rules.
Yeah.
Okay, is it's moved and seconded that the voters assess a tax on the grand list. On the grand list of $56,250 less cash on hand as of June 30th, 2017, as of $25,284.21. With the balance of, I must have this wrong, you said it's $30,965.79 to be raised by taxes. Now,
So I guess a question for the treasurer. We want, every year we have the budget, but if we had money left over, we don't raise taxes in the full amount of the budget. But the amount that was showing left over is fairly high, higher than normal. So we want to make sure that we're raising enough money from taxes to cover. So, Alex, is that the correct number, or were there some expenses that maybe needed to be adjusted so that the amount of cash on hand was less than the $25,000?
This is reviewing what's on page 6. I'm a little confused as to... So the July 1, 2016 number is what you're asking about?
Yeah, 2017.
2017. No, that should be correct. Because I went and moved that money before I gave you this. Basically, I forgot to move money from the capital reserve, from the checking into the capital reserve, but then I did that before I made this report.
Okay, so that doesn't move into the reserve.
Yes, yeah, it should be like $6,000 in reserve. I will double and triple check that, but I'm pretty confident I already did. But I will look at it again.
yeah, no, I was just,
On page 13, I had a question on the insurance. Because if you take the $25,000 and you take the $6,600 that should have been spent in the sewer budget, because they paid it all out of one budget instead of the other, you'd be another $6,000 higher there. Because that insurance thing is supposed to be split between both accounts. If you look at this report, it didn't get split. So you have an over expenditure there, which you shouldn't have. So you really should have 31,000. If you put the 6,000 from the sewer plant back into this budget. Am I correct on that? Cash on hand, yeah. Should be cash on hand. So I think that needs to be corrected.
So that would further reduce the amount we'd be raising by taxes.
Rate.
By 6,600.
No, by half that.
Wasn't the 13.6 is for insurance?
Yeah, but it should be, half of it goes to the sewer plant, and half is for the village. And it wasn't, we didn't note it that way. We put it all in the village instead of dividing it. So it's twice as much as it should be. It should be 7,000 or 6,000.
7,000 for the Saxtons River Fire, right, for insurance? 66
For the village insurance.
for the general, and 6,600 for the sewer plant. Right. For a total of 13.6.
Right.
So if the sewer fund owes the general fund 6,600, that would increase the cash on hand by 6,600. And 50 cents, sorry.
So are we looking to reword then the motion?
And then the dollars.
Put then the dollar amount?
We're still in discussion. I don't disagree with the logic. I think it's sound. My concern is that when we have a budget of $56,000 and we're only raising $30,000 from, taxes, I get a little worried that we're not bringing in enough revenue maybe to cover our expenses. So, I trust that there's not a mistake here, but reducing it by yet another $6,600 seems like that would be increasing the risk that we're not going to be raising it.
But you only spent $6,600, you shouldn't be having this budget.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, but
There has to be an amendment somewhere to take the money out of the sewer and put it into the capital, and you have a larger amount. I have no control over that. Just bring it to your attention. It's not correct the way it is. And you probably get a lot more because you didn't spend any money on the building again. And some other things.
I don't know if it's going to confuse you even further, but if you look at your taxes you collected last year was $53,438. That's a far sight from, we were the vendor, something doesn't add up here. Why would we be collecting 1 year 53 and all of a sudden drop down to 23,000 or 30,000? I agree with that. I think this it takes a little research here, I think.
We're looking at the minutes from last year.
Look at the budget. The front page of the budget, you collected 53 last year, so why would you only be collecting 30? Budget's the same pretty much, except for maybe $500. So it seems possible that you're only collecting 30 grand on that, and you collected 53 last year.
Let's just sort of summarize where we are.
That's why I said, I hope it doesn't confuse the
I'm relying on these folks and Alex to get clear, but are we looking for an amendment in terms of the dollar amounts?
I'm comfortable with the motion as it's stated based on Alex's clarification. And while I agree with you, Bill, that it looks like there is an error related to the insurance, my preference would be to leave the motion as is so that we don't have that additional risk that we're not going to have enough revenue coming in this year.
Okay. If you look at the minutes from last year, there was a lot of cash on hand last year. It was almost 18,000, and the target raised from taxes was only 37,000. So what we're proposing is not that different from last year.
$7,000 different.
Okay. But it's not 6,000. It's not a huge difference.
This goes back to insurance, but not the same question. Under the insurance, it says you covered the fire building and everything, and I didn't see anything that says it covers the Saxtons River Rec area. And when you go and look at the Saxtons River Rec area, there was $200 for insurance in that budget, but it was never spent. So is there insurance covering the rec area, and is it covered in the regular budget that we are looking at right now?
That budget, that insurance figure covers everything, including rec.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm okay with Ben's idea, but it needs to be amended so it's reported correctly for next year. So when you come time to say, hey, June 17th or whatever it is of 2018, you need to have the right amount in there to raise the taxes for the following year.
Okay.
Because right now you're going to raise $6,000 more in taxes that you don't need to, that you're having another account that needs to be transferred over to the other account.
Can you put that as best you can in an amendment word?
Go for it.
We need to do that for the,
I'm thinking. So I would say that based on page 13 of the Treasury report, we have an error on the line for insurance. And we need to make an amendment to correct that error and to bring the resources from the sewer account to the general account within 30 days or whatever, closing in the books for 2018.
I got a question on that. I think, wouldn't that be an amendment to the first item, because this is your question, the report? We're voting on a specific amount to be raised by taxes, and we're not changing that. What you're asking for is a change in the report. I don't know that this is, I'm not sure it's germane to actually this motion.
Well, if I had my way, the amendment would say you had to take $6,500, take it out of there.
You can make that amendment.
Don't raise the taxes by $6,500.
all right.
How's
Do you
that?
want to make an amendment? Do you want to make a definite amendment to the proposal?
Yes, let's make an amendment to reduce the taxes being raised by the $6,500 that's going to come out of the sewer account and be put back into the general account.
Wait, slow down. We reduce the taxes
Reduce the tax
to be raised.
to be raised by $6,600, 50 cents.
6,000.
650.
We're reducing the amount of taxes to be raised by $6,650.50.
No, for 6,600.
6,650.
I'll throw in the 50.
$6,600.50.
To reduce the total amount to be raised by taxes.
So you move that we reduce the amount to be raised by taxes by $6,600.50.
Is that amendment okay?
Well, we need a second.
I second that.
Who seconded?
For me, it's sort of for the group to determine whether in fact amendment is okay.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion on the amendment? All those in, well, I can't say in favor of amendment. Could you read the amendment, please?
Bill Harmon moved that we reduce the amount to be raised by taxes by $6,600.50. And Dave Moore seconded.
Okay. So it's been moved and second. Discussion?
Oh, I just wanted to mention, that would raise the amount to be raised by taxes to only $24,365. Just so we're sure what we're...
I'm sorry, that would what?
Reduce the amount to be raised by taxes to only $24,365 and 79 cents.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it. Motion, the amendment has passed. Now, we reread how that last amendment or article now reads with the correct figures.
So what we just was,
You're going to subtract that.
subtract that, but add to this.
I'll bet somebody out in the audience already has
I already mentioned the new figure.
it. What's the new figure?
24,365 and 29 cents.
20%. Well, what about the
369.
cash on hand?
That's after you subtract the cash on hand.
31,884.71.
284.
So I got 31,884.71.
Oh, we, okay, I'm gonna take that.
So we have three people here with numbers, so I'm going to...
So the motion now reads, I move that the voters approve a general fund budget of $56,250, less cash on hand of June 30th, 2017 of $31,884.71, with the balance of $24,365.29 to be raised by taxes.
Okay, so we already voted on.
All those in favor of the final motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay?
No. The ayes have it. Motion is passed.
I have one question, is how much last year did we raise by taxes?
It's in your 8 minutes. Oh, that's what we voted.
What we voted is different than what we raised.
Yeah.
That's my question. Are we raising 56,000? Because if we're only raising 24,000, we shouldn't keep having this surplus. It seems like we send the bills out to raise 56,000 instead of 24,000. Is my thought.
Okay, my only concern is now we're talking about the reports, as opposed to what we're voting on.
Bring it up on other business, sorry. That's fine. Bring it up on other business.
Article 5 is called.
Okay. All right, moving on. Article 5, to see what actions the voters will take in relation to the collection of taxes.
I move that the voters authorize the tax collector to take whatever legal action is necessary for the collection of taxes.
Is there a second? And discussion.
In case we don't have a tax collector, hopefully got nominated.
You got nominated.
He's looking for a job.
No, I've got
I'm just a rebel, Isaac.
Just a question.
Yes?
I'm not sure if he reverts to the board, then becomes a tax collector, I'm not sure. You do some research on this, didn't you?
The first constable becomes the tax collector.
Where's the hospital?
Peter Golick for first constable.
Sorry, maybe my cousin will take that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other discussion points? Okay,
Are we talking about the amount of money we're going to send out for tax bills right now? We're not, even though we're talking about tax collection.
Why can't we?
Okay, fair enough.
We can.
Yep, let's do that.
Why don't we reduce the amount of tax bills? If we're not going to raise 56, we don't need two and aren't going to raise 56,000.
Technically, we should only be raising 23,000.
Sure, our tax bill is going to be reduced because we're not going to raise, don't need to raise $56,000.
For example, did our tax bills last year reflect raising the total amount of the budget or the reduced amount stated that it was going to be raised by
The
tax?
reduced amount, yeah. Yeah.
Last year,
So this year, they will be reflecting the reduced amount,
Yes,
24,000. That was the question.
Yes,
He
that's what
wanted
we
to
just
raise
voted on.
56,000. He needed clarification about what the tax bills were going to be.
Yeah, no, the tax bills go out to raise the amount that you vote to raise by taxes. So you just voted to raise 24,365 by taxes. That's what the tax bills will reflect.
Are you wondering if we are?
I just thought we kept raising
$6,000 and we're not.
Well, every year we have a budget of 50 to 55 to 56,000.
Right.
This has gone on for years. Do we raise that money and just stockpile it somewhere?
No. We never, no, the bill reflects the amount that you vote to raise by taxes.
Okay.
Not the total budget amount.
Okay, I'm going to go to thank people who haven't spoken yet.
Then where does this 30-some thousand cash on hand come from? I'm a bit lost here.
Alex, can you answer that?
So I've been in the job for 8 months, so I don't know the true answer. I expect that some of it comes from the second collection of back taxes that just get booked into the current year. I don't know what that number is. And I don't know also what, when I came in, we had a certain amount of money in the till already, so I'm not sure where that came from, but if somebody pays their back taxes or a property sells and taxes are paid off, that money comes in as taxes in that fiscal year, but it's money from previous years that weren't raised. But I'm not quite sure what that total is.
But if last year we did the same thing and counted on raising just the amount of money needed, presumably we depleted that excess cash on hand and we raised half of our budget in the last year from delinquent taxes, back taxes, and whatever.
If you look at the actual expenses, they're $51,241.55 minus the $6,650. So that's the actual expenses so far.
Okay.
So some of it comes from
that's roughly-
raising back due taxes. Some of it comes from spending less than the budget. And there's also some money that comes in from the town of Athens that helps to offset some of the expenses.
For the fire department.
Most of that information is on page 13. On the bottom. So July 2016, we had a balance of 17,061. So if you add that to the other stuff we got in, minus the expenses, you're always going to have some left over. Depends on how much you spend there in a year. It's always been that way, even all the years I did it. It's always a balance.
Right, but the next one down is 53,000 that we collected above and beyond. So there was, we wanted to collect 37, but we collected another what, $16,000 more? Good job on the back taxes.
Yeah, but here, the thing we gotta ask Alex is, did we include the amount of the 17,961 in there? So that was that 53.
I have a question about this.
Yeah. Actually, I know, Ellen, you had your hand up?
Oh, no, I'm all set.
You're all set? Anyone else? Dave?
Is everybody in a fog
as much as I am about this? Because on the one hand, I hear we only need 24,000, but then I hear Ben say that if we vote to raise 56,000, that's what the tax bills are going to be.
No, I said the exact opposite. Dave.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. But it's one, I don't know. Confused.
Okay, just clarify for Dave.
So the motion for every year reads, that we approve a budget of about $55,000, $56,000. That's what our budget is just about every year. Less the cash on hand at the end of the previous year, which varies. And then the balance is raised by taxes. That's the way that motion reads every year. So the budget amount is almost always the same.
Right.
The amount of money on hand, cash on hand balance, varies. So then the amount to be raised by taxes varies. So then the tax bill that you receive is going to vary based on the amount that has to be raised by taxes.
I thought the tax bill was based solely on a percentage of the town of Rockingham's tax bill.
No.
That's not true.
You're talking about our village taxes here.
Our village taxes are based on our town tax bill, isn't that correct?
It's
based on your valuation.
Based on the grand list. Nothing to do with the Rockingham tax. It's based on the grand list.
But it's raise the money needed to pay the bill.
Right, everybody's individual share varies based on the value of the property.
Are you clear, Dave?
Yep.
Ellen?
Maybe next year in that sheet that's on page 13, because it is confusing when it says village taxes collected, 53,000, and maybe that could be broken out for village taxes collected current year and then delinquent taxes collected, because that may clarify it in everybody's mind, because the way it reads, it does make it very confusing.
Did the tax collectors, did her report? Now, page 20, but $15,464 was collected in delinquent taxes.
No, those are the outstanding.
That's delinquent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, where's
It'd be
the,
nice if we
oh,
collected.
some of it was collected. I didn't,
It looks like $1,000 on this one.
Okay, is there any other discussions? Check.
This is just a point of information. It seems like the reserve is $32,000. Is that right? I'm just asking related to, it sounds like you said earlier that the demolition of the water treatment plant was going to be covered by the reserve at $85,000. Am I confused? Different budget.
Page 17, different budget.
State wastewater treatment plant, separate.
Just giving time for the Shady to work on it. Shady, what's that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussions? Okay, so right now, we're here to vote on whether to take for the voters to take any action in the collection of taxes. Excuse me. Act on the voters authorize the tax collector to take whatever legal action is necessary for the collection of taxes. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion has passed. Article 6, to see if the voters will authorize the treasurer, subject to the approval of the trustees, to borrow money if necessary to pay the current operating expenses of the village prior to the collection of taxes. This is the basic housekeeping.
So moved.
Move. Is there a second? Second. Okay. All right. So the motion is Excuse me, Vanessa, excuse me. You were supposed to have done that. I'm sorry.
I move that the voters authorize the treasurer, subject to approval of the trustees, to borrow money if necessary to pay the current operating expenses of the village prior to the collection of taxes.
It was also seconded by the state. Right. Discussion. Yep.
I'm good.
Oh, you were voting or what?
No, I was just making sure to second it.
Oh, okay. All right. Not a problem. Is there a discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is passed. Article 7, to transact any other business prior to be brought before the meeting of a non-financial matter. Any other issues?
Question about the park. Do we have a start date for the park project along the Saxtons River?
We don't have a start date. We are still working with Wyndham Regional Commissioner. Some little touch-ups left. Grant agreement needs to be run by legal counsel, which is right now in it. Hopefully we will get it tomorrow or on Wednesday. We still have to do the zoning board meeting on Wednesday at 7 p.m. So we're waiting on their result. And we submitted all other necessary information on the list. So not yet, but we have to be in the construction before October.
Any other comments, questions? Rick?
Do we have a owner's rep or clerk of the works for the, I assume that the bond fire that?
Yes. Yes, so there's going to be, part of the contract that we entered with Hayden and Howard is that they'll be providing an on-site resident project representative will be there essentially full-time through the construction.
Okay.
There's no village money going to this park, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other points of discussion?
Yes. With regards to the fire station, as you know, I think at last year's meeting, we presented, or Rick presented numbers for a fire station that we had put a lot of time into designing and getting cost estimates for. I think they were upwards of $1.2 million. 1.3. 3. Okay. So things kind of stalled out when everyone heard that number. Fortunately, Peter Bullock has put a great deal of time into alternate construction. So I will let him explain where he is with that.
Thank you, Rick. We now have 4 options on the table. The original being the first one, the numbers you know. The other ones are ranging anywhere from the bottom of $300,000 up to the $1.3 million, depending on the option the committee comes to consensus on, and then we'll have to go to the trustees to further us along. We've been out to, we've gone and requested what they call budget estimates for all the different aspects such as plumbing, heating, concrete work. I've tried to get out to 5 different vendors so we can get a pretty good range of numbers. They're coming in very surprisingly in good shape. I'm surprised at what we're getting back for numbers, and I'm not going to go into detail because it would just give away what we know now to any potential bidders. Once we get everything added up and know where our bottom line's going to be, we plan on, at least I plan on, I haven't discussed it with the committee yet, but my plan going forward would be to have a public hearing where we will then lay out all the information, and we have pictures of buildings that you can look at. We'll discuss the different designs. Currently, we're looking at rearranging some room schedules. That's been working pretty good with us, trying to figure out how we can fit everything into where we are. Just recently, last week, 2 weeks ago, we sent the original 1.3 million estimate down to the zoning administrator to get a probability of success for the permit for that building. Two questions that came out in the original report from Marquise Morano, who was the engineers, was the rescue truck exiting out the back of the building, the way it was designed, directly on the 121. And the other was the size of the building that ended up being, the original plan from Marquise Morano was a 60-foot wide, meaning from the road to the riverbed, and then 65 feet deep. If you go and measure that, you're sitting right on the riverbank, literally. And that does not give us much room to play with, so we're just trying to see.
I think if you look at Marquise and Morano's original design, it was also putting in a lot of fill and bringing that out 3 or 4 feet, which was how they came up, how they would have had that extra footage to make the building there.
And I also was told that it was going to tilt the building. You're going to turn the building, which then intrudes on the highway right-of-way, which was the other issue that comes up. So we're waiting to get an answer on that before we can move forward. Otherwise, we'll have to go to one of the other options that we got. So funding-wise, oh boy, here we go. Nobody's out there with free money. I'm sure everybody's aware there's no grant money out there. The only grant money that's out there that's available is for equipment. Nobody will give us any money for a building, so we're on the hook for building the building. I've been to the congressional people, Leahy, Bernie. I figured we might have a chance with Bernie since he financed the whole rec building in Rockingham, but that didn't work. I get steered back to FEMA. Then FEMA says, well, we'll help you with equipment, but we won't be able to give you any money for the building. So whatever the cost of the building is, we're on the hook for that. Financing, I've been to USDA. The thing with the USDA is you will get probably a pretty competitive interest rate on money, whatever it happens to be. The problem with that is that there are a lot of strings attached to it. You have to meet a lot of regulations, which increases the cost. And it will also delay the amount of time we have to build the building. So it depends on how fast we want to get the building up compared to how long it would take. I'm going to estimate anywhere between 6 and 9 months to get it approved. I've got some paperwork already from USDA. Demolition-wise of the current building, you need to get an asbestos inspection. I've been to Wyndham Regional. They will cover expenses for testing of the articles. They take roof samples, paint samples, you name it. And then if there's any remediation, they find anything with asbestos in it, then also Wyndham Regional will also help us finance that. So I don't expect any charges from that. So that's currently where we are. If anybody's got any idea or a big checkbook, you can step up or whatever, but if anybody has any questions without getting into the actual money details, I'd be glad to approach them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With regards to the last committee meeting we had, you were going to talk to the current zoning administrator.
Mm-hmm.
And to get a determination whether or not the exit of that fast squad vehicle onto 121 was a yes or a no or maybe?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything yet.
Okay.
I gave it to him a couple weeks ago, and he was researching another project, and I just hadn't heard from him yet. So.
And did you share with everyone the range of possibilities? We know the top of 1.3.
Yeah, I mentioned the numbers run from $300,000 up to, depending on, up to 1.3. So, and of course, if we can get any funding that will knock that down, it's better for our taxes than anybody else.
When's the next meeting? For the fire committee? Do you have a next meeting of the fire committee?
Well, it'll be pending an answer from the opinion on the zoning administrators to the building, then we'll have a pretty general idea of what direction we're going on.
We typically advertise it, right?
But yeah. Our plan is once we get some sort of a budget and plan, we have the public hearing, then we go out with formal requests for proposals to the people that we want to have do anybody that wants to bid on the project. So,
Dave, thank you.
You can just give me a yes or no on this. Do we have to get a sprinkler system?
we have what?
Do we have to put in a sprinkler system? Because
According to the fire marshal, there are exceptions. We can qualify for exceptions to that, so there would be a cost we wouldn't have to pay.
that was like $50,000.
Yeah.
And the second question is, say we finance this over 30 years?
Depends on where we end up with
Let's just say
funding.
we did.
I was thinking somewhere around the 25 maybe.
Let me just use 30. So with interest, this is going to come up to like $2 million, which would be $65,000 a year. So it's going to more than double the village tax rate.
Yeah, because if you look at your budget and do a little math, you can figure out a penny raises about $4,000 on the tax rate. So.
What number are you thinking?
Well, with interest,
The three or the 1.3 million?
Oh, the 1 point. Well, we're not going to build 300,000.
That's a possibility.
Well, that would be good. No, I think.
As I said, the numbers we're getting here are very surprising and very good.
Okay, Peter, and then
Peter, do the costs you mentioned include the cost of a temporary alternate site for the fire station?
That, I've made arrangements for that. I'm not going to mention the donor, but I have that done at no cost.
Yeah,
I've been a busy boy.
we exhausted that.
Yeah.
okay, let's speak to
Does the $300,000 bid, as opposed to the 1.3 million, do you come up with the same finished product?
Pretty much. And, let me answer that question before you say that we're the same product. The original plan calls for 3 floors. I don't know what they're going to use the 3rd floor with because there's not much room. You can't stand up there from what I've seen. But anyway, we would probably end up with 2 floors with the building. So you'd have storage on the 2nd floor, and the base would be the station with the community room down there, etc. So we're just trying to showers, bathroom, the whole gamut, chief's office. Anything that we need, the hose tower would all be included. I don't want to go much further because it sort of would give away some of our information, so.
But it would be a substantial building and...
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I would like to point out, because I did work pretty hard on that 1.3 million project number, that we got 1 bid on the construction, and we only got 1 bid on the site work as designed by Marquise and Morano. We never got any further than that. We never did any value engineering, so that was like the big scary, like, worst case scenario number. We never, we did never work down to that. There was a lot of civil, there was almost $300,000 worth of site work based on the work that Marquise and Morano did due to from Hurricane Irene and things like that. So I don't know how that's going to, unfortunately, I have a busy day job and I missed a few of the meetings, so I don't know how that's all, how that's all figured in. The 3rd floor of the old building was basically a crawl space for our arts crew to do training so that they could climb up the ladder and then crawl through the crawl space, so it wasn't really a working 3rd floor, just to clarify that at one point. But that 1.3 was never fully vetted out. That was like an estimate from a friend of mine, who is a general contractor who does this type of work. It was the estimate from Marquise Morano for doing the site work, and it was our best guess at looking at how we would store the equipment for some period of time. So, not that it's not a scary number, and I don't know how far we could, I know we could have brought it down to 300, but I just want to clarify a few things like that. That was never vetted out beyond the fact that we all said, holy crap, let's stop and back up.
any other questions, issues on the firehouse?
Just one thing. Peter, you didn't mention that one of the things you told me you've been doing is you've been going around and talking to other towns who've had built fire stations, and that's part of your research. So it's not just pie in the sky.
Well, yeah, my wife and I toured for a couple of days, went and took pictures of different fire stations and talked to different fire people and tried to get as much information in the background as we could before we proceeded. And so we've been around the horn, and like I say, with a committee, we're moving forward, which is, at least we got to a point where we're ready to at least make a move. I have talked, as far as funding goes, I have talked to the local banks, 5 local banks. They're willing, but we'll have to wait, and we'll put that all up to bid. That's the best way to do it, get competitive bidding.
I just have a comment. Thanks to Dave Moore, and I'll take a little credit for it myself. After Hurricane Irene struck, he quickly got a hold of FEMA, and between the two of us, we got that bank going within a certain time frame. It would have cost this village another $30,000 to get that bank restored. I have photographs, progression photographs of the whole construction of that bank, which was a fabulous job they did. But if you're discussing issues like, we asked the surveyors to do it because they lived in the town as a gift and they didn't do it. Just remember that we had to move quickly while other things were being done to get that FEMA money. And we saved this village $30,000. If we'd have waited beyond that point, we'd be $30,000 more in debt right now. And I don't think a lot of people know that. So you got to give Dave more credit.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any other discussion points? David?
Speaking of moving quickly, what's the speed limit in the village? 25 miles an hour, right? How many people see people going a lot faster than that? So we have a new project this year to get speed radar signs, like the one on the way going into Bellows Falls. We've been in discussion with a Canadian company that will sell us 2 of them for $5,800.
They're in the metric system.
This is a picture of the signs. That includes delivery. We have raised $4,775 already. $200 from the jar at the village market, which I'm going to leave at the door. So on the way out, go girl, because we have until April 30th to raise the balance. So not just coins, but dollar bills, $5 bills, $10 bills on your way out the door would make a significant boost towards our goal. Thank you. That's pretty good.
I think we should pass it around and we should just watch everybody.
Were we done with the fire station? Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to thank Peter and for all the work you've done on
So someone asked what's the balance left to go? $1,046.
Oh, we're gonna raise that tonight.
46 we could raise tonight. Did you keep showing the one in Chester? It's like the ones in Chester. It says thank you? It says thank you if you're going at a slow speed. It says slow down if you're going too fast. But we like the thank you. And another question.
Does it show your speed?
It shows your speed and it says slow down if you're going, or it says thank you. As a boost to this, after these are installed, I would like to have a project with villagers and their children making signs like the signs for the library book sale, for example, that are children-made signs or villager-made signs that pop up at other streets in the village besides the ones where the official
sign is. So does anybody think that might be a good idea?
Where would they be posted?
On their lawns, yeah. If somebody wanted to have one on Grove Street or on Pleasant Street, then they could take one of these and decorate it themselves and put it on their yard. And that would remind people that the speed limit is 25 throughout the village.
Are these solar?
These are solar powered.
Who services them?
Look at Hades.
I nominate Peter Fuller.
And if we find that they're working, we can get extra mounting bars and just move the unit to another place and then move it back. So it's possible that they're portable. But for now, we're thinking one at each end of Main Street.
Where did you raise the $4,000? That's very impressive.
There were 3 or 4 major donors, a number of donors in the $300 range. Anybody want to comment? The Saxtons River Tai Chi group, every time they meet, makes a little donation, and then every now and then they decide where they're going to give it. So they came up with $300. Yeah.
Great.
It's nice. I think it's a good idea. The real speeding in this village takes place in South Saxtons River. As people climb up the hill above, going out to get, going above after they cross over the bridge, and then they turn on the gas. People really speed South Saxtons River, Westminster West. That's where much worse than Main Street.
We can all do our part by driving slowly ourselves, so that the cars line up behind us and have to go slowly.
Why not move them around?
It's possible that we could, but we're going to start with, this quote for $5,821 is good till the 30th of April.
That's for two? For both?
That's for 2. With delivery.
Maybe us in the upper village ought to pitch in and buy our own.
Will's been patient here. I'm impatient.
The price goes down if you order 3, then you save money on all 3 of them.
I'm very impatient about the speed in the village, so I would like to know if we have currently the Vermont State Police, who I highly respect, but I think the Wyndham County Sheriff's Department would do a much better job on speed. So I would like to know if we could contract with them for speed control.
We are, the Vermont State Police has informed us that they don't want to contract with us any longer. So we're in the process of meeting with the Wyndham County Sheriff's Department.
I think they will do a good job.
You had your own speed sign, though.
I didn't.
Is there any other business that we'd like to bring forward?
I have one more thing. Just a reminder to everyone here. We still are looking for a trustee. We have an open position for 2 years, and we're looking for a tax collector. So just a little reminder. We could use some help.
So things were going quickly. I realize there may be a second, but there are 2 folks that want to speak. Shane, did you want to say something?
Shane O'Keefe, Manager, the town of Rockingham. We received during this year from Saxons River a petition of over 50 individuals looking for improvements to roads in the village. We are right now in the process, Mike Hines and I, working with our engineer to come up with all those roads. We are doing downtown Bellows Falls, but we will be doing, we'll be working with the select board to figure it out eventually, but we'll be making recommendations on paving in the village. And it could be, right now, we're either looking at Main Street or Pleasant or some of the other roads that were mentioned. But we will be doing some paving this building season in the village. We'll confer with the trustees, let you know, in case it's going to be disruptive in any significant way. But you can expect that to happen this building season.
Did that include any sidewalks?
We do have sidewalk money, and we would like to do some. We're going to be going out to bid in Bellas Falls Village to do some, but we are able to actually bring money forward, $81,000 in addition to last year's, in addition to this year's money. And we've established a plan, 5-year plan, of adding $50,000 to paving per year and $10,000 per year for sidewalks. So last year we had 250,000. This year we have 300,000 for paving. Plus we have a state grant to the downtown in Bellas Falls. But the select board is stepping up both sidewalks and road paving.
Shay, just one, because Wilma had her hand up. Does it have to do with the street?
It does not have to do with streets.
Okay, Shay, just yours?
Mine is just asking how you make the determination. The sidewalk all along the front of our house is just collapsing. So how would we suggest that be corrected?
Our highway crew doesn't know which ones need to be done. You know, with highways and with sidewalks, we take a look at which ones get the most traffic, and we try to, address those. But at the same time, it's not necessarily doing the worst roads. We're trying to do the best we can with the money we have and do it in an efficient way.
But you are going around town looking.
Absolutely, you are. Thank you.
There are two other, this has to do with roads.
I had a question about Pleasant Valley Road. Where Parker Hill Road was done in stages from 103, I think, to the Springfield line. And I don't know if Rockaway Mills was done also, portions of it. But is the same thing, or is there any plans to start at 103 and come to Saxtons River and rebuild the road properly?
Yes, there's discussion about that. The select board was presented at their last meeting with an analysis that was done. It's an RSMS study of roadway safety management systems, where we look at each road and come up with a plan. We have a 10-year plan of which roads we're going to deal with, how we're going to raise money to do that. Parker Hill Road, that was done in improvements. But this is we know it well.
The Valley Road
is horrible shape, and we've been able to do some drag shimming and this, that, and the other thing. But it's in rough shape. It is part of the plan, and the idea, as you say, would be to hit it in pieces and then coat the whole shebang.
Okay, there are two other folks that had votes.
Mine seems like a very small issue, but I think there's a huge problem with dog food in this community. And I think something needs to be done about it. All along Main Street, the town workers were out there the other day, and I spoke to one of the men, and it's just horrific. And there's people walking their dogs, not picking up after themselves, their dogs. And I know Bellows Falls has stations. Maybe it's something that we could think about and maybe spread the word. Hang plastic bags on your neighbors' houses, whatever. But it's a huge problem.
But today, people put it in plastic bags and then they just put it on the ground on Pleasant Street. Two today.
Yeah, I know.
And so I pick it up all the time. I put it in the garbage. I've taken the garbage thing next to the store away because that's all that was going in it for a while. Now we're going to put some other household garbage in. But then something gets into that all the time. So there's got to be a better kind of system. It's ridiculous.
This has to be some mess.
Yeah.
Main Street is covered, or was covered, with dog shit.
Main Street, by the Vitel building there.
Everywhere, both sides of the road.
Where are the fire constable? First constable?
Only constable?
On that one, I'd like to welcome two new people in our community, Carl Wall, who is Dick Barnes' nephew, and his wife, Pat Reed.
Okay. Unless there's no other comments, points of discussion, Bill, would you like to make a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Wherever that second came from. I told you I wouldn't.